Hello, and welcome back to Aetheral Space 17.51, The Long Dead. We are back.
Whoa, we are back. And how does it feel to be back?
It feels great. I feel great. Everything's coming up tamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that?
What do you mean?
I don't know. My head's still groggy.
You're so
I just don't
snoozy.
know what it means to be coming up tan.
It means that everything is the world is functioning correctly.
Wow. So the default correct state is for everything to operate in your
Yeah.
favor.
And we've been operating incorrectly for some time, but
We
proper
finally got
function has
working
been
again.
restored.
Pats the earth like a bad behaving TV.
Yeah.
Alright, well, without further ado, why don't we make the earth function a little more correctly and get some Aether reading done,
Yeah.
shall we? Oh, it doesn't start with a day moniker thing.
It does
Not
not.
moniker, what's the word? Interesting. Hazley, sitting on the carpet of the Impossible Hotel lobby, had three questions on her mind. 1. Where was she? 2. Who were these people? 3. Why was that plushie talking? The three questions were wrestling for entry through the doorframe of her mind, and so none of them actually made it to her mouth. Now that she thought about it, though, even looking at this strange group assembled before her, there was an even more pressing question, one that had only occurred to her once she realized she'd just woken up. 4. How long had she been here? That one she actually managed to voice. In this bizarre place, before these bizarre people, her words sounded terribly distant and weak. Then again, maybe that was just the result of the hopeless battle she'd escaped. The pitiful thing that couldn't even be called a fight. Where she, despite the skill forced upon her, had been utterly powerless in the face of true aetheral mastery. 2 of the pink-haired boys looked over at her question, while the third just continued to slumber on his mountain of bed-sheets and pillows. The flashy fashionista who'd brought her here smirked as he looked to his more put-together twin, deferring the decision to respond. Was he their leader, then? Whatever he was, his pink eyes were sharp as he considered her question, not just the answer to it, but whether to provide an answer at all. Finally, though, he relented. It's been about a day, he said. Day 5. Hazley's mind raced. An entire day? The last thing she remembered was the flamboyant boy grabbing her as they escaped from Oe and Songshu. Given that she'd been unconscious until now, she must have passed out right after that. Fainted. Just thinking about it made her feel pathetic. No, she couldn't lose to that right now. Right now, she had to voice those other questions. Who are you? She asked, looking at them all warily. Final Church, the serious-looking boy replied, his frank demeanor a stark contrast to his delicate appearance. You don't need to know any more than that. It's classified. I need a name, she insisted. Names? Something to call you, even if it's not real? The boy exchanged a quick look with his counterparts before turning back to Hazley. Call me Jay, he said seriously. Then I'm M! The flamboyant one flashed a peace sign. I'm F, the dozing one mumbled in his sleep. Like the grade. Okay, those were letters, not names, but they were probably the best Hazley was going to get. Time for question 2, then. What is this place? She asked. Shit, that was supposed to be question 1. Whatever. Jay kept his hands casually in his pockets as he leaned against the reception desk. This is a torture chamber, he said, and then after seeing her pale, he added, was a torture chamber. We've since commandeered it as a base of operations here on Nermut. Think of it as a space alongside but outside of conventional space. The point is, it's outside of the enemy's reach. Hazley slowly nodded along. She didn't really get it, but basically they were safe, right? Safe from the outside, at least. You're the 4th guest to our hotel so far, Em giggled. You're doing, way better than the cowgirl. You aren't literally so violent that we have to lock you in your room. Hazley didn't really get what he was talking about either, but she was only half listening anyway. Her eyes were fixed on the subject of question 3, the thing sitting on the reception bell. This was the one she'd really been dying to ask about. Hey, it said. Okay, enough was enough. Why is that plushie talking? She cried, jabbing a shaking finger at the object of her confusion. Indeed, it was a plushie. There was no getting around that. An adorable little doll with knitted silver hair and knitted pale skin and knitted blue eyes. And yet, as Hazley watched, it rose on its stubby little legs and stood independently. And yet, as Hazley had just heard, it had spoken without a mouth. "I'm just here," it said, as if it was nothing at all. "I made his clothes," Em said proudly, brushing his nose with his thumb. "You like them, right?" "Ah!" "Who is he?" Hazley exclaimed. Another quick look between the three brothers. They must have done this thing a lot. Glances like that seem to be their primary form of communication. They've already done it half a dozen times in this one conversation, after all. It seemed that, in this case, they were willing to tell all. "That's the Supreme," Jay said seriously. "Oh," that sounded familiar. Hadn't she heard that somewhere before? "That's the really strong guy, right?" Jay blinked. "Dear, why?" he muttered, shaking his head. "Who's why?" Hazley asked. "Dear, why?" "It's like I said," It's like I said, F called out lazily from his pile of pillows. "The people in Z-Pan, they don't know anything about the outside world." "Go back to sleep," Jay said without looking. "We need the troop positions from Oberon's dreams before everything kicks off." Before everything kicks off. What exactly did that mean? Hazley's attention had already drifted away, though. She was looking at the plushie again. It didn't really have eyes, she supposed, but if it had, their gazes surely would have been locked. It had clicked together in her mind. "The Supreme," Hazley murmured. "Dragon Hadrian? You're Ruth's friend, right?" The plushie took a moment to answer. "The first part, yes. I'm not so sure about the second." Hazley leaned forward. "Ruth thinks you are." "Does she, now?" His voice was wistful. "You're the one the variants are based off of," Hazley continued, her words growing quicker as more pieces connected. "Worm and Dragana and all the others." "I have been told. I've not actually had the chance to meet any of them, obviously." Dragon gestured with his little hands at his little body. "Given how I am right now, I doubt any encounter would end well." "But wait!" Hazley raised a hand to stop him, even though he'd already stopped speaking. "I thought you were inside the sword, inside permutation." She looked over to where the Aether armament rested against the lobby wall. "I thought that was the whole point." "Technically, I am inside the sword." Dragon looked up at Jay. "Is it all right if I—" Jay nodded curtly. "Go ahead." "F has an Aether ability that interfaces with the dreams of others," Dragon explained. "You probably already figured that out, though. The state my mind was in inside the sword was very similar to a dream. Close enough for F to connect to me, at any rate. From there, he was able to set up a link between me inside the sword," he raised his flimsy arms, "and this receptacle. Basically, my consciousness is inside permutation, but it's being streamed here. Because of that, the ritual can't end, and it's messing all sorts of stuff up." Hazley blinked, trying to clear the tsunami of information out of her eyes. "Oh," she said. "Okay." And all of this, of course, begged another question. 5. "What do you want me for?" "My brother saved you on a whim," Jay said, shooting Em a quick glare. "But I do think we can help each other. You received intelligence from Lucifer Westmore, didn't you?" Hazley's eyes widened. "How?" "F has read your dreams, too," Jay said simply. "We've sampled most of the major players in Z-Pan." A shudder ran down Hazley's spine. When? When did that happen? What night? Had she known and forgotten upon waking? That ambiguity, more than anything else, made her feel especially violated. "You can help us infiltrate Z-Pan," Jay said. "Infiltrate Oberon, right down to the deepest levels." "Why?" Hazley asked, pulling herself out of her dread. "What do you need to do there?" The subject's disappearance is meant to be a given in the permutation ritual," Dragon said. "But since I've ended up like this, it's still possible for me to come back. I just need to get rid of the variants. Pandershi has a couple under lock and key. It follows." "No way," Hazley thought. "Okay," Hazley said, turning her head to the triplets. "And you?" "We are servants of God," Jay said simply. "It's our duty to kill the pretender." Popcorn for a bit?
Yeah, sure. They said, scratching their cheek. "So, have you talked to him at all?" Ryanch looked at the speaker, his face illuminated by the crackling campfire, his eyes tired from the long night and the obvious. From the positioning and the question they were asking, this other person was surely Dragana Hadrian. He allowed his gaze to slide over her, looking at the back of their makeshift encampment. That must have been Tomuzazi meditating there, then, his eyes closed. I haven't, Rayan said calmly. I tried back when we found him. You were there, of course. He didn't say much. After Unseelie gun and Unseelie sword had fled the battlefield, and that strange weapon had departed too, Dragona and Rayanch had rushed to find out what had happened to Muzazi. To be perfectly honest, they had expected to find a corpse. At the very least, they thought they would find him on the edge of death. What they hadn't expected to find was him walking across the battlefield in nothing but a ragged piece of cloth, covered in his own blood, and yet without a scratch on him. He was even missing the scars that had covered him before. If Rayanch had remembered what the man had looked like on Talden, he probably wouldn't have recognised him at all. It was fortunate that it had happened when it did. If it had been any later, Rayanch surely wouldn't have recognised him. Even discounting the restoration of his body, Tomuzazi had definitely changed. There was a newfound clarity in his eyes. Rayanch didn't know what had happened out there in the wasteland, but he clearly steeled his resolve like never before. He hadn't said to search for Hazley. He hadn't said to search for Ruth. When he'd told him of Worm's fate, of how the man from the final church had given his life to save him, it had been frank and matter-of-fact. All he'd said since, all he'd laid out for the future, had been just as simple. We need to make ourselves ready. And from there he'd been meditating, sitting with his palms resting on his thighs, his eyes gently closed. All tension had drained away from his posture. Even as he was now, Rayanch couldn't help but be filled with a deep respect at the sight. It was as he had truly become a sword freed from its sheath. He knew that the war was coming. This siege would soon become a battle. That sensation was crackling silently in the air. They were standing on the precipice, and so the time for true preparation had already come to an end. All that remained was to harden their hearts. What a battle that would be. Rayanch truly hoped it went well for all of them. Mr. Patel? Dragona asked. Of course. She'd noticed that something was wrong. She was an observant woman after all, as was to be expected of one who had become supreme in another life. Rayanch would be the first to admit that his behaviour was rarely mundane, but over the last few hours it had truly become unusual. Perhaps it was how quiet he'd been. Perhaps it was the stilted way he was speaking now. Most likely it was the way he was looking at her now. The flat hostility behind his blank gaze. It wasn't something he could exactly hide, not completely. After all, when he looked at Dragana, when he looked at Muzazi, even when he looked at himself now, he saw someone else entirely. Is something wrong? Asked Nyan. You seem a little off. Nyan was there, on the other side of the campfire, looking at him with those black eyes. Nyan was there, meditating at the edge of camp, his pale skin a block of snow. Nyan was here, looking at Nyan, and looking at Nyan, and seeing only Nyan, and having his brain dyed in Nyan's colours. Yeah, Nyan said quietly. I'm fine. He supposed it was a wonder he was still able to think coherently. His perceptions had been stolen away, so his cognition certainly wasn't intact. But in the deepest part of his mind, Rayanch Patel was still Rayanch Patel. He supposed that was possibly even a mercy. Dead man walking. That was where it was. The sensation when you jump off a building, before you begin to fall. Split-second lucidity, existing only so that you know you are doomed. All Rayanch Patel could perceive at this point was that false salvation. Come the dawn, come the war, he knew he'd finally decompose into nothing. He only hoped that when that time came, his vision would have abandoned him as well. He didn't want the last thing he saw be Nyan's face. Popcorn.
Scary. Ruth Blaine sat upon the world's end. Perched atop the last remaining spire of the city ring, a bird upon a warped girder, she nursed her arm. It was badly burnt, bleeding red, strips of skin peeling away like wallpaper. This was the result of her final clash against the dragon. Their mutual full-power strikes had resulted in a massive explosion large enough to bring down the massive automatic and send both of them flying. She got the feeling that she'd gotten out of it better than the dragon. At any rate, he hadn't shown up to continue their fight. Most likely he'd retreated with the rest of Zipan's forces, back into the city itself. That was just as well. She got the feeling that if the fight between them had gone on much longer, one of them would surely have been killed. Skeletal set. She manifested the gauntlet of her armor around her injured arm as a brace, moving it experimentally. This could work. She'd just take a page out of Bruno and Serena's book and move her arm around with the ether for the time being. Now, Her gaze slid over to the massive crimson wall of the barrier. After the battle had trailed off, Ruth hadn't been able to find her friends to join back up. She supposed an aether ping could help them locate each other, but then again she didn't exactly want to broadcast her location. Even if the Z-Pan forces had fallen back, there could still be hostile variants like Namarion or Capricorn lurking around. Besides, there was a feeling broiling in her gut now. It told her that it was best not to move around too much right now. It told her that this place she'd found herself in was now her starting position. There were great shapes moving beyond the barrier, the machinery of war that the final church had assembled. They weren't moving around with the intention of a siege. This looked more like the preparations for an imminent battle. Ruth didn't know how, but somehow they had found a way to get through this barrier, and they'd do it very soon. Very soon now, probably within the next few hours, things on their moot would truly begin, and then things on their moot would truly end. She took a deep breath. I lost my place. She took a deep breath, clenching her hand into a clawed fist. This was her last chance to make things right, to bring her friend back, to turn back the hands of time, to make things right again. This time she wouldn't mess it up. This time she'd keep her promise until the very end. Wow. Alright, looks like we're getting there.
Yeah, we're all going to kick off next chapter, I'll say right now.
Yeah, sorry for the drum roll, but I thought the dead man walking was on purpose, especially the way you wrote it out with the dashes. Shall we jump into questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, alright, let me... Every time I always look in the ASRP server first, I'm like, oh yeah, it's in the other one. There it is. Alright. Stift asks, are there big cats? Did they survive? Do cats hold the same place in people's lives? Like, are there house cats?
Well, we know for a fact there are big cats because a lion was the main antagonist of one arc. If you recall.
The lion does not concern himself.
Me when the ethical board comes to black men.
Do cats hold the same place in people's lives? Like, are there house cats?
I'd say there are house cats. Not as common as they are in now time, but I'd say it's a thing.
It's no giant tardigrade.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a pet for all ages.
Are they used for gladiatorial things?
I suppose they could be.
Could one tame and ride a big cat, or is there a hidden gene tyrant? No.
I'll say you could tame and ride a big cat in the magic fuchsia. Why not?
Yippee!
The idea of one gene tyrant felt very strongly about this, and like hid in every big cat, and she's like, no, it cannot be ridden.
So that makes
if someone rides you, blow up.
I forgot to ask, because animals have sapience, they have sentience, but not sapience. Like, they have consciousnesses, but not, like, higher thinking. Can animals, broadly speaking, use Aether? I know we've seen the, like, evolving dinosaur do it, but, like,
we've also seen a bird do it, but it was modified, so I would say it can happen, but unassisted, it would be very rare.
It would have to be something you'd probably have to be very lucky to find an animal that happens to have the right core and then train it to do.
Exactly. Because you remember King from the Dawn contest? He had a bird that had Aether, and they fought together.
I was going to say, I feel like the easiest way to do it, if you're an Aether user, is you use Aether to evolve your animal's consciousness, and then they can use that newfound consciousness and ability to, like, communicate to then get their own Aether.
And then it betrays you. It's like, thanks for the sentience, idiot.
I don't need you anymore. I'm awakened, goldfish.
And now to train my animal companion. Wait, this knife! What are you doing?
Alright, and then Stift also asks, how did Dorothea... I think it was Dorothy Iro.
Yeah, Dorothy Iro,
pull off the recorded wounds heal.
So when she recorded it and played it, the recorded phrase of her own voice that she knew was her own voice and remembered doing, that served as a trigger for her ability.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then Rock Shark asks, would Hachiman's ability fail against Prime Ashtel Durin the same way Compass did?
With like wake, it might have. I would say the specifics of the two abilities are slightly different. Where Compass is like your weak point, it searches for your weak point, like somewhere you are specifically weak. Compass was searching for, whereas Hachiman is where you're weakest. So I think Hachiman might have worked.
Okay.
Because you,
And then
you get what I mean? It's like the connotation is different.
Yeah, no, I do. Rurum and Stift have similar questions. I'm going to kind of bundle them. Rurum asks, can tomfoolery fuse with Luna?
Yes.
And Stift asks, can tomfoolery fuse with Bruno / an Awakening?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Tomfoolery can do a lot. Basically,
the
if you are an independent
fusion,
Aether using entity, tomfoolery can fuse with you.
Tomfoolery and Wooming would go insane. Like, what would you even do against that? I'd be like, never mind, I surrender.
I'd be insecure if I was tomfoolery. Like, what am I bringing to this fusion? Well, the martial arts skill, I guess.
Yeah. The final question, MT asks, what happens when Hachiman targets an Aetherless person? Does it work, and where does it target?
It'd probably target the like a universally weak point, which I imagine is like the cerebral cortex. I don't know.
Yeah, carotid artery.
Yeah, it would just like basically it would go for an instant kill attack on an Aetherless person.
Nice. All right, and with that, I think we're all done. Thank you all for listening. If you're enjoying the series, please don't forget to leave a review on Royal Road or Spotify if you haven't. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.